Hi, everyone. We're live. I'm Debbie Schwartz. I'm here with Russ Vitale, and we are talking tonight about early admissions. Somebody already said hello. Hi, Joanne. Nice to see you. I was just going to say, I always like to give people a few minutes to just get notified, and they kind of, come, whether it's probably to your computer, sit down and settle in. And so while we're waiting, hi, Karen. It's nice to have people say hello. And it's always really helpful to know where you're from, how many kids you have, and what year your kids are in high school. Majority of the people who are watching usually have kids in high school. If you do not have a senior in high school, it's still very valuable information to come listen to these Facebook Lives. And we'd love to know if you have a sophomore, a junior, even a freshman. It's good to hear. So most people, hopefully you know me, but if you don't, I am the founder of the website and the Facebook page called Road to College. And we are connected with the Facebook group called Paying for College 101. And I'm going to let Russ give a little introduction to who he is, and then we're going to wait a few more minutes and we'll get started.
Great. So good evening, everybody. I'm Russ Vitale. I'm an independent college admissions counselor. I've been doing that for about 15 years now. My company name, by the way, is Destination College. And I'm also a best-selling author. I wrote a book that actually came out a year ago today, I believe it was, called College, Making the Complicated Easy. It's available on Amazon. And, Debbie and I were talking about this event and thought it'd be very obviously timely, given the fact that a lot of people are going through, the admission process or starting to application process now. So I'm really excited about doing this because it's a very common theme and topic that we get a lot of questions on. So I'm hoping that it's going to be really helpful and clarifying for a lot of people.
Great. Yeah, I see a lot of people are coming on and saying hello. So keep going. Nice to see everybody. Lynn just said hello. She's a senior son and a freshman daughter from Florida. And just, I always like to say, so I'm outside. I live outside of the Philadelphia area in the suburbs of Philly, and I have 3 of my own kids. One, yay, graduated from college. I have one that is in college. She's a sophomore, junior. Because she's at a school with a co-op, so they don't really actually do sophomore, or they don't do those traditional names. But she's between her second and third year, and I have a senior who is in 11th grade. So we are going through this with you. And Russ, why don't you share, if you want, what you're...
Yeah, I mean, I'm happy to. Actually, the balloons behind me, you can maybe see. My daughter just turned 16 last month. She's a junior in high school. So after 15 years of helping a whole lot of other families all over the country and some all over the world, I now get to work with my own daughter. So it's
right. So I feel like we know this, process, not just, Russ knows it professionally. I know a lot more on the financial side, but we know it as parents, and it's, I think the best professional you can be, it is completely different when you have your own child going through it. It's just, unique, and they and maybe your spouse may not listen to you the same way as somebody who comes.
No comment on that part. Yeah.
So, okay, I think we have a ton of people on, so let's get started. So tonight we're talking about early admissions. Melissa's saying I'm probably not applying early admission, so maybe I'm not interested. But you know what? You don't know. So I think you should listen, because applying early is not just early decision. So I think you're going to hear like a whole range of options. Right. I'm going to bring on slides. You will still be able to see Russ and myself. Feel free to put questions in the comments. If I can, I'll interrupt Russ and we'll ask the questions, as we're going through the discussion. If not, we'll answer them at the end. But please ask your questions, because we try and get through, as many of them as possible.
Definitely. I promise not to just ramble, hopefully.
Russ, can you see these slides?
I can, no problem. That's great.
Okay, great.
Yeah, so I mean, I think, Debbie and I spoke, and we thought this was a very important topic because every year on, not just me and my private practice, but also even on the Paying for College Facebook page. I remember last year especially, there seemed to be a million questions about early decision. Should we apply early decision? Oh my gosh, I applied early decision. We didn't get any money. Now what do we do? And I really think, to me, it's all about education and understanding the difference between the different admission strategies, as well as then trying to match it to your child's admission goals, but also to your family goals, whether it be academic, geographic, or financial. So I mean, most of you hopefully know this, but again, early decision, and a big date for early decision right now is November 1st. That's what a majority of the schools have their early decision date. But it could be November 5th, November 10th, the 15th,
Right.
December 1st. It depends on the school. But ultimately, when you decide to apply early decision, you are signing a contract committing your child to go to that school if they are accepted. Now, that means that that college, if they accept your child, is absolutely counting on your child coming to the school. I know that sounds obvious, but I'm going to talk about that a little bit later. But it's really important for you to understand because the admissions people take this very seriously as far as you saying that you're going to come to a school, because early decision is supposed to be a done deal for them as far as students in chairs come the upcoming year. So if for some reason you or somebody else kind of tries to get out of that commitment, it does not bode well for their numbers, and honestly they can get a little vindictive about that if that happens.
Russ, can I just interrupt 1 second?
Sure.
And Mindy will put the link in the comments. We created a download for everybody.
Oh, right.
Which is free, and it's actually a listing of all the colleges that offer early decision. And we got the early admission rates from last year, and you can, if you download this list, you'll get the school, you'll get what their early decision rate was, you'll get what their regular decision rate was. So you can admission rate. So you can kind of see the difference. And we also put in a column, which is the percent of the class that's filled through early decision. And this kind of all relates to what Russ is talking about in terms of the college and their way of managing their yield.
Absolutely. That's great. It's a great resource, first off, which is really nice of you to do. That's awesome. That'll be very helpful for a lot of people. But, the aspect of this also is that I can't tell you how many people are either referred to me, or even after I speak with my clients 10 times about things, sometimes they still ask me, well, financially, I don't get the package I was hoping for, I can get out of it, right? And the technical answer is, yeah, but to me, and the way I advise my clients is, it's no different than buying a house, buying a car, or buying a business. You want to make sure you understand your options before your child applies early decision to any school. And by the way, I'm going to talk about that a little later on, but you're not going to hurt your daughter or your son's chances by doing your homework and talking to financial aid and talking to admissions to find out if early decision financially is going to work out for you. Believe me. And actually, they would rather you find that out and not apply early decision than apply early decision, get in, and not go. The other thing is, some schools you may have heard have an early decision 1, and they also have an early decision 2. An early decision 2, all that means is it's a later date. As I said before, a lot of schools have a November 1st early decision 1 date. Then they may have another opportunity for you to do early decision in January 15th. Okay. So for some people, money is not anything that you need to be concerned about. If your son or daughter applies early decision 1 to their top choice, you know it might be a little bit of a reach, and you think you're not sure if they're going to get in or not, and God forbid they don't, they get waitlisted, deferred, or God forbid rejected, their second choice, they can apply early decision to. So when people say you can only apply early decision to one school, that is correct, only to one school at a time. Okay, so there are schools that have early decision two offered as well, and that is potentially a strategy. Now, that's different. Early decision is different from early action. So for the person who asked, I'm not really sure if we're applying early, you might not be applying early decision, but you should absolutely be considering early action. Early action, the difference is it's not a contractual commitment. Basically, what you're doing is you're sending in your application showing some what they call demonstrated interest and preparation, that you're ready earlier, and that you would like to know earlier whether or not the answer is yes, you're admitted, no, you're not, or waitlisted or deferred. So typically, when you apply early action, you can apply to as many schools as you want, typically, which we'll talk about one exception to that in a minute. And then you'll find out, usually if it's a November 1st date, you'll usually find out mid or later December, right before the New Year, Christmas holiday kind of time. So it's a great way to find out earlier. And that way, if your child's also applying to a bunch of regular admission schools, which nowadays, unfortunately, sometimes you don't hear until March and even April, which is crazy to me, because then you have no time to really do the research and decide by May 1st that that's the top school that your child wants to go to. But if you get an early action school or a couple under your belt, student is feeling good going into the new year, knows their worst case scenario, and maybe even where they want to go at that point. Also, there are a lot of colleges that take a majority of their students early action. A lot of schools try to do that for, again, and honestly, they don't do it for you or for the student or for the family. They actually do early action for them for enrollment management purposes. But that's one of the reasons why they offer admission to so many people up front. So that way things can hopefully vet itself out earlier, and then they know how many people have taken the regular admission pool. So I'm going to talk about how and when you should decide on early decision and early action. Give you some criteria for that. But I just want you to know that in a lot of instances, early action with no commitment but earlier notice can really be a good idea for positioning a child for admission.
So can I just say a few things? And there is actually one good question. But
Sure.
I'll just tell you guys from my personal experience, particularly with my middle daughter, we had a spreadsheet. We had, all the schools she was interested in applying to. We listed it out, all the possible options at each school, whether they had early action, and some schools have early action and early decision. And if they had early decision 1 and early decision 2 and had the dates, and before she even applied, we kind of had a strategy about, where she was applying early action, where she chose to apply early decision, and if that wasn't going to work out, where was it going to be early decision 2. And I just think it's good to think about these things before you make that final decision. So again, so even if the first round of responses doesn't come back the way you want them, and your child doesn't get into the early decision, you're not scrambling for a plan. You actually had the plan before you even started. That's just
right. That's key, and that's definitely important, because again, also a lot of people don't put this thinking ahead of time. They think that early decisions the way, or they get talked into it by a guidance counselor or by a college counselor at a private high school. That happens sometimes, and sometimes they try to push that because they want their numbers to look better, or they don't really consider, especially the finance, because usually finance is something that in the public schools especially, but private too, you don't kind of broach that subject. You just make assumptions. Well, you're here, and you're applying, so why not? So I really think it's important to kind of vet that whole thing out to make sure that you know what to expect, because afterwards is definitely a mess, and it's too late. And not only is it very stressful for the family, but very stressful for your child, because they are telling everybody, by the way, I applied early decision to XYZ school. They're really, hopefully they're nervous, but they're excited. Then they get in, and then they're telling everybody, oh my gosh, I got in, my top choice, whatever. And now they know in the back end that the parents or the family is having some financial second guessing about it, and they can't even be excited about it after they just went through the stressful application process. So, I mean, I think, again, the financial part is really important, but also putting a plan together, like you said. That's what I do with my clients all the time, is we make sure we have the right amount of reach match safeties, all things considered, but also the reach match safety is not just impacted by your academic ability or matching to that school. It's also based on this admission strategy that you choose as well. Now, the other thing, go ahead, Deb, did you want to say something?
I was just going to say, I don't know if you have it later or if you want to address it now. The question always comes up, well, I can kind of get out of early decision if I prove to them that, the financial package isn't going to be good enough for me.
Right. Right. So, I mean, I discussed that a little high level at first, but yeah, I mean, people think that they can get out of it if the financial package does not work for them. However, the analogy that I always give is, I used to, when I was younger, I'm not as young as I used to be, obviously, but when I was younger, I used to love a Corvette, right? I don't know why. I just grew up as a little kid loving a Corvette. I never had one, but I just always thought I wanted one. But then I realized two things about a Corvette. Number one was I didn't really fit in it too well. I'm 6'4", so that wasn't working out so well. But the other thing is it was pretty expensive, right? So I don't know that you want to be in the Corvette dealership when you should be in, the Kia or the Honda or, even the Lexus dealership. There's nothing wrong with that. But, you have to understand, if a school's $70,000 a year, which is a lot of after-tax money, and that's going to be tight for you, or there's no way that you're going to be able to pay that without significant financial assistance, then early decision might not be the right place for you. And to me, I would not rest on the fact that, well, I can get out of it later if I have to, because I have heard stories. Like I said, it affects the yield, and admissions are really, really tight on that. If they find out that you are going to leave them at the altar, so to speak, they can get vindictive. They will call other schools and let them know that when they find out, or if they find out you've applied to them, let them know, by the way, just want to let you know that Ellie Smith left us hanging and ditched us on, early decision. I've seen that kind of stuff happen. It's not a good scene. So you just really want to avoid that on all levels.
I'll tell you one quick story, and I think actually somebody might have shared it in our group last year, is what guidance counselors can sometimes do if they're in this situation, because a guidance counselor actually also signs off on your student when they apply early decision. So they feel like it's their reputation also that's on the line.
True.
And school, in one case, I remember this story, basically a student got in early decision, backed out, didn't want to go. And then the high school refused to send transcripts to other colleges.
Oh, wow.
So they have that right. Just saying, like.
Yeah, they do. And that's actually a good point, too, is if a student does stand up a college for early decision, it leaves a big black mark on that high school, big time, for future applicants, too. That's a lot of people say, well, I don't care. My kid's already graduated, but it is going to affect other people. So
there's a question Melissa has. Do you get a financial package with early action?
Yeah, no. So again, it depends on the school. So there's a couple things. We're going to talk about it in a couple slides, if that's okay. I'm going to talk about the early read and all that. I just wanted to address two other things. Early decision, early action are the two obvious and like heavy weighted things that a lot of people talk about. But there's two other things I want to talk about. One is mentioned here, restrictive early action, and some schools like Notre Dame and Princeton, they have this restrictive early action thing. And you really have to understand, because it's school by school, as to what the parameters are and requirements for that. But really, for the most part, restrictive early action means if you apply to that school restrictive early action, you are not able to apply to any other school early decision. And in most instances, you're not allowed to apply to any other school's early action except for public schools. So that's in general. That doesn't mean that every school does it that way. You'd have to read the rules, but there are some schools out there that do restrictive early action. For me, I don't really understand it. Why they don't just do early decision is beyond me, but there are some schools that do that, and that is an admission strategy to consider. And the other that has no timing on this, but is called rolling admissions, which I'm sure a lot of you know, I've heard. But you see online, it says rolling admissions until May 1st. What does that mean? So I don't have to apply now. But no, especially if a school is top or high on your students list and you think they're a good match. I'll give you an example. I'm a big fan of the University of Pittsburgh, especially if my students want to pursue anything in the health sciences. It's phenomenal, and I would put that school against any school in the country. I don't care if it's Ivy or not, I would. But they do rolling admissions starting in early September. Every week and every month that you wait makes it more difficult to get in because they're going to have 27, 28,000 applications by the end of September. Okay. So if your child's interested in that school, if your child thinks they're a good match for that school, send the application in early. There's no commitment, but the yes. And again, it just takes the weight off. The student feels a lot better about where they are, less pressure because they know their worst case scenario is already a great one. So rolling admission, there are several schools that have that. Penn State has that. Tulane has a bunch of different ones. You could look into that, but having a couple rolling admission schools, assuming that your student actually likes the school and is a good match, is another option as well.
Okay, I'm gonna go to the next slide.
Perfect. Okay, so basically, I'm just going to whip through this kind of quick, but colleges are a meritocracy. They admit the best. You like to think that, but they also have objectives. They won't take more than 6 people like XYZ high school. They only want to take a certain number of people from New York, from New Jersey, from Georgia, and the like. So you basically have, 2 different processes that go on here. One for regular applicants, which is just supposedly taking the best of the best to meet the demographics that they want. And then the others for special applicants, meaning maybe a recruited athlete, or especially here in the Northeast, might be they want a left-handed trombonist from Iowa. That's awesome. And I'm not even joking about that. Lehigh University, up until last year, for 3 years, was asking the same thing in every information session I went to, saying, is anybody here from South Dakota? And of course, no arms went up. And they said, well, if you know anybody who wants to apply here from South Dakota, let them know they're in, because that was the one state in the union they didn't have anybody from. So admissions can get a little funky there. And that's where the confusion increases and predictability sometimes decreases. So we can go to the next one too if you want to.
Okay.
So then the colleges basically are looking for the right mix. And, people ask me all the time, so what are they looking for? If I knew, believe me, I'd have a line outside my door nonstop and I'd give you the secret formula, Unfortunately, colleges don't share that. They're looking for the best students, but all this is in quotes because the right and the best is how they define it. It isn't always the student with the highest GPA. Like a number that a statement that I like to share is Princeton last year, 50% of the people that they declined had perfect SAT or ACT scores, right? So that tells you 2 things. Number one, Princeton, pretty darn competitive, which everybody already knew. But also, they're not just accepting people that have perfect SAT scores. So as a result, they're looking for something else. Finding out what that something else is, which is a whole nother process, which I take my students to try to find, is a whole nother thing. But you can't just go by, best and the merit that you have there. So colleges pick the student doesn't pick the college. So a lot of times you'll say, I don't understand. He's a great student. How come he didn't get in there? It happens sometimes for various reasons. If the college feels they're being used as a safety, which is another reason why if you don't apply early action, they can consider yourself, if you do regular and you do it later, meaning for the January submission or later, they can say, wait, hold on a second. This student most likely didn't get into their top choice school, early decision or early action. They're using us for a safety. They weren't really interested in coming here. So that's why I personally want all my students to be done, submit all their applications by no later than Thanksgiving and earlier if possible. So I don't need to tell you this, applications and admissions is pretty crazy right now. Applications are definitely on the rise. When I went to school, yes, a long time ago, people applied to 2, 3 schools, didn't even visit them, and that was the end of it. Now kids are applying. I have kids that come to me late that say they're going to apply to 20 schools. I'm not an advocate for that. I try to whittle it down definitely to like 8 to 12. But a lot of kids are applying to a lot of schools, which makes it a lot more competitive. I will tell you though, as a result of that, in the last probably 3-4 years, I have seen more people get off the wait list than ever before. So in the past, if you were put on the wait list from an early decision try or early action try, it was basically a nice way of saying you're not coming here, but we don't want to reject you. So now, though, I see a lot more movement with that because there's so many kids applying to so many schools and people making decisions and jockeying for position that a lot more people are coming off the wait list and deferred list than in the past, in my experience.
You know, Russ, there was a question earlier, and the question was, in applying either early action or early admission, what are all the possible outcomes that, or the decisions that a college can give back to you? So,
okay, right. So if you apply early decision, you can obviously get accepted, right? And that's what I love. I get a bunch of texts and phone calls and emails. Woohoo, got it, and all that kind of stuff. So that's the obvious one, right? But then the other three are you could get waitlisted. Waitlisted basically means they're going to put you in a parking lot. They're going to see what the rest of the application pool looks like, and they're going to let you know if they have a spot available for you. There are things you can do to try to get off the wait list or to try to let them know you're still interested so you have a better opportunity to get off that wait list. I go through that with my clients, but that's probably a discussion for another time. Then you could also get deferred. Now, if you get deferred, basically what they mean is, all right, what we're going to do is we're going to pretend we never saw your application. We're going to put it back into the pool with the rest of the regular admission folks. And we're going to see how you do in that pool versus the early decision pool. Now, I will tell you, in both of those instances, the wait list and the deferral, all early decision contractual obligations are null and void. So if you are accepted after that in a wait list or a deferred condition, you are not committed to go there. Okay? The obvious last potential result is unfortunately flat out rejection. So those are the different ways that things can potentially go through from there. So hopefully, Deb, is that good?
yes, that's great. Perfect.
Great. So the other thing is, and this is where I wanted to talk about it, yield predictions are very difficult, but that's what the colleges are looking for, okay? So early decision should help their yield. That's why they're excited about it. That's why they offer it. Early action is really for the college, not for you, which I discussed before. Many may admit more to offset financial ability to pay. And what that means is there are people that they'll admit. So just as an example, you have a FAFSA thing going on tomorrow, right?
Yes.
Okay. I think everybody should participate in that, even if you're not going to qualify for financial aid, by the way. That's a little plug, but I really believe that. Okay. But, the other question I get asked all the time is, should I check the box that says, yes, I'm applying for need-based financial aid? I always say yes, especially if you think you're not going to qualify for it. Because at some point, these colleges, nonprofit, sure, they run out of money. And especially when it comes to waitlisting or deferral and getting you off that list, if they see that they don't have to offer you any money, they can actually improve your students' ability to get in. So that's my take on that. And I tell a lot of students that. Potential to base acceptance on financial ability to pay, as kind of the same kind of thing, and longer wait lists, perhaps better chance, which I talked about before.
Okay.
So, what I think, and this is where I said I was going to come back, okay? I think you really have to be honest about where you stand. So when people ask me, clients ask me about early decisions specifically, I say I have Russ's rules, right? Russ's rules are in my book too, at the end of each chapter. It's kind of a thing I do with my students and with my families. So I have 2 rules, but I'm going to go into them a little bit more if I could. But number 1 is, this is going to sound obvious, but if you're contemplating early decision, it should be your student's top choice. And I say that because sometimes students will do early decision at a school that's really not their top choice but they think it'll give them a better chance for admission, and they really think their top choice is a bigger reach. So they'll do that just to kind of hopefully put sprinkles on the cupcake and make their chances better. But then they find out they actually get into their top choice, and they're like, wait, hold on a second. I would have never applied early decision to this school if I knew I was going to get into that one. So it's really important that a student, in my opinion, be authentic to themselves, and whatever their top choice is, with your parents' permission and approval, you go for it and you apply early decision at your true top choice.
Russ, sorry to interrupt, but there's a lot of confusion.
Okay.
People are asking, can you repeat what you talked about in terms of whether you should check the box for wanting financial aid or not?
Yes, absolutely. So we actually could have a whole probably on the Common App and the FAFSA and all that stuff. We could do that separate. But anyway, my answer to that question for all my clients is yes, you should.
So yes, check the box that you want financial aid. Again,
correct.
Give us your rationale.
Right. So number one is, if you're going to qualify and you're going to apply for financial aid and need it, then of course you do that, right? But the second thing is, even if you think you're not going to qualify. Now, first off, all my students and all my clients, always I encourage them and tell them they should file a FAFSA, because, as you know, Debbie, there are certain schools will not consider your student for merit money unless you go through the process and submit the forms. They don't tell you that up front. As a matter of fact, I just saw a post on Paying for College today saying that they got a message from a school saying that they will not process their daughter's application until and unless they fill out the FAFSA. Okay, so you file the FAFSA, in my opinion, regardless of how. I don't care if you make $5 million a year, you should do it because of the merit money alone. But from an admissions perspective and consideration perspective, the colleges only have so much money to give. Granted, whatever their budget is, they got to give it, but they can go through it quickly. So if your child is not accepted immediately to early decision, they're waitlisted or deferred, you check the box yes for financial aid, and then you follow through and actually submit the forms. That's key. You have to do that. They will see that your family has no need. At some point, the money's going to run out, and the only students they'll be able to take off the wait list or the deferral list are students that they don't have to give money to. So hopefully that's a little more clarifying.
Okay. I think that like second half of what you said of why the importance of checking the box and filling out the forms is helpful. It's really kind of like if in that sticky situation of the student being it's almost like it gives the opposite information. I mean, it tells the school, because they have all the information, that you aren't going to have need, and that actually might be positive.
Correct. Honestly, I think it absolutely is. And admissions people have told me that in the past. So, I mean, it's again, they only have so much money to give. So anyway, which though does go to the second bullet up there, which is you need to understand the financials before you decide to apply early decision. And what I always encourage my clients to do, if finance is a consideration, which I believe it always should be with the expense of college these days, but if finance is a consideration, you should request what I call an early read from the college you're considering. Now, not every school will offer that to you. Some will just say, go to our calculator online, and you can try to get an idea that way. But a lot of schools will take you through the process. They will ask you for some information. It is not going to be a guarantee of this is exactly what you're going to get, but it should give you an idea of what you might qualify for, if anything, from a financial aid perspective, as well as what you will be responsible for should your child be applying early decision and therefore is accepted.
Okay, I just chuckling a little. Christina said, "Who?" I'm putting in my own tones.
Yes.
She said, "Who are those people that don't have any need? Are you talking about the few small sliver of people out there?" Yeah.
Well, I mean, yeah. I mean, look, for me, as I said, I don't care if you make $5 million a year, you should be applying for financial aid, in my opinion, which I'm sure you'll talk about tomorrow. But yeah, I mean, I do work with some clients, so like, we're not worried about that. So, I mean, God bless them. But, I still, even if I had it, I would be concerned about it. So that's just my opinion. Any other questions at the moment, Deb?
Nope, not yet.
Okay. So understanding the money funnel is kind of really important because again, that's the number one reason that people either are not sure about early decision, or they are, they do it and then they kind of get surprised later. So full rides, you hear about full rides all the time, but full rides are typically not even real, but if they are, they're sometimes full tuition scholarships, and those go to blue chip athletes. They don't usually go. On occasion, you'll get somebody who has a full tuition scholarship if they're a national merit finalist and have great scores and whatever, and they're going to a less competitive school. But for the most part, full rides go to blue chip athletes, not to academic students. Merit scholarships are potentially available for early decision, early action, but you need to ask. A lot of people say, well, why would they give me money if I'm committing to go there? That's not how colleges work. Now, some schools will not give you money because they're need-based only. And you might not qualify for need-based financial aid, regardless of what a great student your student is. But that's not because you applied early decision or early action. It's because of their policy and how they do things. Now, I'll tell you an example. Syracuse is a need blind institution. So you can apply early decision, and if they think you're a good match and you get accepted, you could get some money, merit money from Syracuse, no matter what your financial situation is. However, what I talk about later, I believe, is it could, next slide. It could depend on your major as well, because also same school, Syracuse, if you apply to the Newhouse School of Communications, which is very well known for communications, you will not get any merit money no matter what. So a major or the school you choose, the business school, the Ross Business School, whatever, it all could also impact your ability to qualify for merit money. So that's why having this conversation with admissions before you apply, so you know what to expect, is really, really important.
Yeah, Ross, there's actually a few questions about one person saying, when would you ask for the early read? And somebody else is asking, what data do you have to have ready to share with them?
Right. Okay, so great questions. So number one, I'll answer the second one first, if that's okay. You're going to need probably your tax return in front of you, an approximate value of most of your assets, so you have a net worth calculation of some sort. They probably are not going to ask for actual statements or any of that kind of stuff, but you're going to need your adjusted gross income for the year.
From 2018.
Correct. As well as whatever the current value of your assets are approximate. Okay. So they're definitely, because it's assets and income that go into that. So they're definitely going to ask for that. As far as when to do it, to be honest with you, I would do it as soon in the process as you could, because I mean, unless you're expecting your financial situation to change dramatically, I have people, all this time you may have been deciding or talking about it, and your child's all excited about the idea of school and whatever, and you might be going, wait a minute, we didn't talk about the finance. If that's the case, I would do that tomorrow. Okay. But typically it's never too early to ask, because that way you're aware of if it's need blind, if it's not, if there's merit money to be had or there's not, if there's a presidential scholarship, if your daughter or son is in the arts and can do an audition for merit money. Like, there's a lot of different things, but you want to know all the options before hopefully you make that decision to do early decision. So, and most colleges will be up for doing that for you at any point. Is there anything else, Deb, relative to that?
No, that was it.
All right, cool.
Oh, wow. Oh, that was, wow. It was a lot, but we went through it quickly. We're at just general questions and answers, if anybody has anything.
Yeah, if there's anything relative to that. So again, I just want to emphasize, while people might be typing or whatever, and Deb, you can let me know, but this is really huge and important, because again, I believe last fall and even last year in the February, March, April timeframe, there was a flood of messages going back and forth and Paying for College 101 in the Facebook group of people who just couldn't believe, I applied early decision, we didn't get any money, we can't pay for it, it's $72,000. I thought child's such a great student. Like, I thought they were going to get something, and that's what we're trying to avoid for you here. It's obviously not we're not trying to overstep and tell you what to do, how to do it. I would say, not my money, not my child. You can do whatever you want, but I do hope, and that's what Debbie and I wanted to do with this tonight, is kind of give you some tools to prepare and some things to think about so you don't make those big mistakes.
Actually, Barbara has a great question. She's
Great.
asking, should her child apply early decision and wait till decision day of December 1st to apply to any other schools?
No. Great question. Okay. So I think I mentioned briefly before, but it's worth repeating. My students, my practice, I really want everything done by November 1st if possible, and Thanksgiving the latest. I'm going to give you a couple reasons why. First off, I'll give you just the student version of why, okay? Obviously, as it is, it's tough enough to get students to do their essays, their supplements, their applications when they have 4 AP classes, they're playing field hockey, and they have a job doing whatever. So it's even tougher as you get further into school, and now you've got the holidays coming. Believe me, it's trying to track them down and nail them down to do those essays and application stuff is just really not beneficial to anybody. They're not in the mood to do that, which leads to the second thing. God forbid they get a response that they were not expecting. Early action, no. Early action, yes. Then they're good. But early action deferral, a wait list, they definitely are not in the right mindset to start writing essays and thinking about their plan B. So I want all that work done up front that we can possibly do. So that's from a logistical standpoint and from a mindset, which I'm very big on with my students, to make sure they're in the right and not stressed and overwhelmed more than they already are. But then I'll also tell you from an admissions perspective, as I gave the example before, if a school receives an application after January 1st, it is very likely in their head that they are thinking your student got deferred, waitlisted, or rejected from an early decision or early action school. That's why you're sending your application to us now. So to me, I don't like that additional scrutiny or that red flag of like, all right, hold on a second. Why did this kid not get into their top choice? So to me, I think there is a mentality there of admissions people going, wait a minute, they're not really interested here. We were not a top choice of theirs. Somebody else rejected them. Let's find out why. I just don't like that whole scenario.
We actually have a lot more questions. Before I read these, I just want to show everybody, because I think, I don't know, maybe I'm just a data geek. I like the numbers, but
You are, but we love you for it.
I wanted to show people, this is the download. And Mindy will put the link in there again. So it's, I can't remember how many schools are on this list. Maybe there's like 175 schools that offer early decision. And so here's the name of the school, the state. So here's what we listed it out. We had information on whether the schools require the SAT or ACT. So that's on this list. We have the average SAT or ACT score. We also have the 75th percentile ACT, SAT score. But here's the interesting numbers. And actually, I calculated these because nobody actually shares these numbers outright. I'll start with early decision. So this column, well, actually, I'm showing my cursor. You can't see it probably, but there's a column that says early decision, admission rate. It's probably the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7th column in or of the green. And so that is the actual early decision rate for that school last year. That's the best information we have. This is all self-reported information, but this is information from the common data set, which is, another terminology. It's information that all colleges report. They usually put it, kind of hide it sometimes on their website. But this is, actually looking at the number of applications that were sent in for early decision and the number of acceptances that school, gave out that last year. So that's one column. The next column is some schools, as I mentioned, also have early action as well as early decision. If a school had early action, we have that information there. If they had both early decision and early action, but all the schools on this list are really schools because they had early decision. Then the next column after that is regular decision. So what we did is we pulled out all the applications and of the students who apply early decision, and then the students who get in early decision. And then we looked at the number of applications that are left of all the students that applied regular decision, and then of those students who got in. And if you notice, the number is much smaller than regular decision, early decision. I'm just going to read the top one, which is Pomona College. So Pomona, which is in California, their early decision rate is 17%, right? Their regular decision rate is 6%. If you blend those two together, their overall admission rate, which is usually the admission rate that they offer, is, I can't even read that myself. I think that's 8%. So you can see if you break out the numbers, it tells you a little bit of a different story.
Okay. So, and maybe I'm wrong with this. Correct me if I'm wrong, but what also says Pomona is obviously a smaller college.
Yes.
By that number, that tells me that they accept the majority of their class early decision, and there's a lot smaller pool, but a lot more applicants in there that defaults to that, and that's why that regular admission is so small, because they have less spots available.
Exactly. Right. And so actually, and that's the next column, Russ. The next column on this.
My glasses might help me with that. Sorry.
That's okay. is the percent of the class that was filled early decision. So exactly what you said, Russ. Pomona fills 50% of their class early decision. So as Russ was explaining, that means 50% of their spots are available for regular decision, but they get a lot of applications for regular decision. So that's why the admission rate for regular decision is so much smaller.
And by the way, that's probably not, it's not even 50% that's still available, because, and I'm not just talking about Pomona, but in general, there are schools that also have a separate process, as I mentioned before, for blue chip athletes. So I know one school in particular that accepts approximately 970 kids each year. They accept about 475 early decision 1 and 2. They accept another 280 athletes. That does not leave a whole lot left for the regular application pool. And like you said, they have 1 million applications for that. So at that point, that's when they are looking for that left-handed trombonist from Iowa, like I was mentioning before.
Yeah, and I'm just looking at this one, page that we have listed. I'm looking at Claremont McKinney College, again in California, and these are smaller liberal arts schools, so they don't have as many spots available in general. But they're taking, last year they took 59% of their class early decision.
I mean, I know schools that take 75%.
Yeah. Yep. So this, I just think,
a great tool.
Yeah, this is important information. If your child is applying to any early decision school, know these numbers. Just, it can't hurt.
Yeah, great. That's a great tool.
Okay.
And everybody on this call gets it?
Yeah, Mindy put in the link. It's a download. It's free. It's a free download.
That's awesome.
Yeah. Okay, so let's go back. Let's go through some of these questions. A lot of questions, Ross, again, and you mentioned it, but it's probably worth repeating it again, related to early action. Are people going to get financial aid information when they get the early action decision?
So the answer, unfortunately, is I can't tell you the blanket answer. It depends on the school. So there are some schools that you apply to that say, congratulations, you've been accepted to XYZ college, and you also qualified for a presidential scholarship of $20,000 a year. Okay, that's a great letter to get, right? That doesn't mean that's all you're going to get, because it's not your full financial aid award letter. But that means you are at least teed up to the fact that you're going to get some kind of merit award. It depends on the school. The reality is, and I don't know what your experience has been, Deb, but it used to be that the FAFSA was required to be sent in starting January 1st. Now it's October 1st, okay? And that was supposed to be so that the financial aid awards can get back to the families sooner. So you have more time to ask questions, figure it out, and decide which school is right for you by May 1st. I haven't seen that. So from my experience, you still get something February or March that gives your full financial award letter that says, this is how much the school is, this is what your EFC is, and by the way, this is what we're giving you or not, or what you qualified for or not, and this is what your net cost is. So you're most likely not going to get anything from early decision or early action, with the exception of maybe some kind of notification that your student qualified for a merit award, if they're the type of school that shares that ahead of time.
Okay, I'm just looking. There's a few other good questions.
Sure.
Catherine's asking, would early decision one be a negative for 100% meets needs school for a competitive school?
No, not at all.
Yeah.
Not at all. I mean, this is kind of like, to me, it's kind of like the SAT optional question we get asked all the time. For schools that are SAT optional, a lot of parents, like, they're skeptical, and I don't blame you, and I understand, but they go, wait, I mean, if he applies SAT, are they really going to give him a fair shot? Yes. I mean, first off, especially with all the publicity now that colleges are getting for different stuff, the last thing they want to do is be caught doing something they shouldn't, right? But they don't have a SAT optional policy to kind of nail the student. That's not what they do. It's either their policy or not. And schools that are need blind and also meet 100% of need, whether it's early decision, early action, they should absolutely be treating you fairly as if anybody else came in. Plus, also, you're coming in when there's the most money. But if you're in doubt, absolutely talk to the admissions people and financial aid people before you make that decision.
Okay. Russ, let's talk about one more thing, and then we're going to go back to questions. Let's talk about some of the other programs that we have coming up. Let me just switch this. Okay. So, I hope that people got value out of this tonight. We'll, probably do some other, Facebook Lives on different topics. But we did want to offer, because we know that, this is, pressure time. It's really pressure because there's just not much more time left.
Right.
And we wanted to offer a really reasonable, I always feel like I'm kind of like on QVC when I say these things, but I think we're really offering, something very, very reasonable, a 3-week program, just kind of like what Russ did tonight here, for the next 3 Sundays. So the 6th, the 13th, the 20th, for an hour and a half on each of those Sundays. We're going to go through with the 3 most important things that are left if your child's going to apply early. And if you got anything out of this conversation tonight, even if they're not applying early decision, if there's an option of applying early action, they should be doing it. If there's an option of applying early admissions, they should be doing it. Rolling admissions. Even if they should there's nothing, but the sooner that they get in their application, the better their chances of being accepted and getting aid. It's better to be on the early side than on the later side. So anyhow, the 3 most important things to get your child's application in is obviously filling out the Common App, getting essays done, and really reviewing and polishing that final college list. So those are the 3 topics for the next 3 Sundays, 8:30 to 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And that's really all 3 of those sessions is for $59.
Yeah, so I Debbie, if I could just jump in quick. I mean, Debbie and I talked about this because really what we're trying to do here and why it's so incredibly reasonable here is, again, every year we see the angst and the stress and the overwhelm that happens as families go through this process. So, I call it right now the senior sprint. And that's what people are doing, sprinting to the finish line. So what we're trying to do here is through these 3 sessions is hit the 3 major points that need to be done, but also that will drive your success and or surprise as you go through this process. So I personally will be hosting the first one about filling out the applications, as well as the final college list. And the college list is really key. I have a saying all the time that the list drives everything. And it sounds obvious, but so many people put a list together based on, my uncle went there, I saw them on the NCAA tournament, they look really cool. I want to just get out of here and I want to go to this state and be in the warm weather. And I'm not saying there's anything necessarily wrong with that, but the college list and polishing that and making sure it is correctly connected to your family and your students' academic, geographic, social, and financial goals is key. So I'm very big on that, and I think that that drives everything. But as far as there's a lot of questions about the Common App and the coalition application, how to list activities, what to do with the honors section, something we talked about today about the financial aid box, yes, no. I think the essays and supplements are definitely something that's work intensive, and that's going to be, I believe, hosted by Prompt, I believe, right?
Yes, we're gonna. Yep.
And so I really think This is a crash course for a ridiculously inexpensive price to make sure you're just dotting the I's, crossing the T's, not making the big mistakes, and hopefully hedging your bets as best you can for a positive admission decision come December or future.
We're going to throw in one more even special thing is that, and we can only do this for honestly 10 families, but the first 10 people who sign up, Russ will give he will do a personal review of their college list.
Yeah, so just so everybody knows that. So that's something that I'm doing currently with our concierge service. I have a proprietary system that I've been using for 15 years to match children to schools, but I also use my experience and knowledge of honors programs and geography and early action and early decision and majors and all that kind of stuff. And I'll hopefully help you to find out and make sure that you have the right number of reach, match, and safety schools based on academics and financials, and also potentially, hopefully, make a couple recommendations for you on schools you might want to consider in addition to what you already have.
So
that's why we can only do 10. It's pretty intense.
Yeah, exactly. So if anybody is interested, we have the link up there, and we put the link in the comments. It's pretty easy. You go to roadtocollege.com/finish early. That's their goal. I mean, honestly, we offered something, and we'll offer it probably till the end of October with a company called Prompt, which helps with essays. And the whole goal between that service and what we're offering here is to just hopefully you've started. And if you haven't, this will get you started. And if you've started, let's just finish it all up, because we want everybody to have a pleasant Thanksgiving. And I know it's the beginning of October, but we have to work now to make sure that there's a pleasant Thanksgiving and a pleasant, holiday season. So,
and it's $20 a session, for goodness sake. I mean, believe me, if you got any value out of what we did tonight, which I hope you did, you're gonna get that and then some at these. So. Yeah.
So Kristen's asking, she said, my daughter also needs a review of her essay. Will Prompt offer this? So let me explain. So the $59 is for the 3 sessions. And this is actually even another extra perk, but I didn't actually, I didn't want to make things too complicated. But for the people who sign up for this, sprint to the finish workshop, whatever you want to call it, you will actually get an option to buy a credit review from Prompt at an even more reduced price than normal. So you'll be able to get a review of your student's essay for $39 in addition to the $59. So again, I think it's another bargain, but so that is an additional price. They'll be talking about essays and supplemental essays, but they won't do an individual review except if you buy the extra review credit for $39. But I think it's pretty reasonable and worth it.
It's definitely reasonable worth it. I mean, if you had most people in most areas of the country, even if you had a tutor come for it, it's going to be a minimum of $50 to $100. So
right. Okay. So Pamela's asking, do you need to watch these live? You do not. If you happen,
it's more fun that way, because then you're with us. But yeah.
Right. These 3 sessions are recorded. They'll be sent to everybody the next day. If you can be live, I think that's better. You can probably ask a question, but it's not 100% necessary.
Yeah, no, I think that's we do that again with the other service that we do. I mean, it's great because, we know you're busy. We picked Sunday night because we thought, aside from anybody who wants to watch the Sunday night football game, hopefully you're home, So, but if for some reason you're not, or you're busy, you're tired, whatever, just knowing that you're going to be able to witness everything and go through everything by getting that recording, I think it's been very effective with our other program.
Yeah, and again, I didn't even actually have any details, but I'll just tell people who are listening who might want to know. Russ keeps referring to another program. We actually piloted a program this year. It wasn't very large, but I think it was very successful. We started in February. It's still running, and we call it a concierge service. And basically, Russ, along with another college counselor, Marissa Medin, do 3 sessions a month. So and each month has a different topic. And it's a more, I guess what you call elaborate, more personal service.
More robust too.
Robust. Yeah, that's a better word. Robust, personal, elaborate than what this $59 program is. But that is really helpful for people who want to absolutely make sure they've gotten everything covered. They understand the process inside and out, and quite honestly, that they are willing to start earlier so that they don't feel rushed. But that's a whole nother topic. But I just wanted to give.
Yeah, I'm sorry, it was my bad. But
Yeah.
the reason I probably should have said that. The reason why I even mentioned that is because the reason that Debbie and I wanted to do this for this tonight and this program is some of our learnings with that. That was the biggest, stress and overwhelm part of these clients who are in this concierge program. So we wanted to kind of, streamline and kind of give a quick, tutorial on how to get through that part. So.
Okay, I'm just getting, for some reason, a few people are saying they're having some problems signing up. Try this link for anybody who said that they had problems signing up. I thought I was being fancy by giving it a cute name, but this is the direct link. And for whatever reason, if you're still having problems, email me. I'll give you my email, and we'll take care of it as soon as we get off. But okay. So hopefully, I'm going to leave this up. Hopefully, if anybody has any questions, I mean, if you just want to hear, more of what Russ has to say about all of, these different topics, you should go for it. Next 3 Sundays, you'll just feel comforted that you've done whatever you can before your student submits their applications.
And then also you'll be done hopefully by the 20th, which still gives you 11 days to meet the November 1st timeline, if that's what you're looking for.
Yes, that's another reason why we did it for this time period. And I'll just throw out one other thing. You can use this kind of as, I hate to use this word, maybe Russ, you have a better word. I was going to say leverage with your child, but basically, if you say, I've signed up for this. We've got these 3 Sundays committed. And maybe we didn't make it clear. These sessions are for you and your student. They are not just
right.
for the parent. And so this could be a really good way to make sure that they buy in and they, work and finish up, because they have to do the work to finish up these applications.
No, absolutely. I'm sure they have questions too, which happens. So.
Okay.
Any other good questions I can try to?
Oh, okay. There's a question. AJ's asking: Is there a likelihood to have a higher deny rate for ED, since the pool could be more competitive?
Well, the answer is yes, potentially, depending on the school. So again, when I said, you kind of got to get real with what your true positioning is. Yes, you should know kind of where you are in the application pool, most likely. 75 percentile of ACT or SAT score. Also, again, like I said, different things depending on the major. I mean, you could, if you did engineering or nursing versus College of Arts and Sciences, obviously that could impact things. So yes, there is a theory that the more competitive students will be applying early decision. However, I will also tell you, in my 15 years experience, that a lot of people who apply early decision feel like that's their only shot at getting into that school. So sometimes you do also have just as many people who, to be honest with you, still great people, still great students, still great kids, but don't have the academics necessarily, but they think early decision's their only chance to even be considered. So I do think you have both ends of the spectrum. There are certain schools also that give a heavy weighting towards legacy students. So, knowing those kind of things, which is not necessarily something they publicize, not necessarily something you might know if you don't ask the questions, but it's something that obviously a professional like me usually knows for most of those schools.
Nicole's asking, do essays need to be handed in with the application, or can they be handed in later?
No, definitely. As a matter of fact, you cannot submit your application unless and until, at a minimum, the Common App essay, the main essay, is in the writing field. And also, some schools might allow you to submit without the supplements, but I would never do that in a million years, because going back to that and sending, it's one thing if they get the transcript and then they get the letters of recommendation a little bit piecemeal. But to me, I want all my students to apply everything nip and tucked, dotted, crossed, ready to go. And by the way, what you can do with that is every school on the left-hand side, specific to the Common App, it has a review and submit button. You click on that and a PDF will come up when it's ready. I would suggest you print that. You give it a once over, make sure that there's no typos, there's no issues, everything's filled out correctly. And that's exactly how it's going to be then sent to the college. But no, you need to send everything together.
I can't remember. I remember reading this earlier. I don't know if I read it to you, but Michelle was asking, is there anything wrong with applying to 10 schools early action?
Not at all. Not at all. Early action is early decision. There's a minimum of, a maximum of one per early decision round. As far as early action, no, absolutely not. I mean, especially if you know that the schools accept a big majority of their students early action versus regular. If your student is also a good academic student, match for that school, by all means, I would definitely do that. That's actually a good strategy.
Yeah, and they're not going to know that if you applied, you could, right?
No, but remember also, again, early action is not committal in any way, shape, or form. So even if they did know, it doesn't matter.
Okay. I think we've kind of covered almost all of these great questions. I will say there's definitely a few people who have already signed up. I'm just going to repeat that the first 10 families are going to get a review of their college list by Russ. So you got a little sampling of what what Russ's advice is going to be, and that's a great offer. So there's only a few more spots left for the people who are going to get that special bonus of the extra college review. And
then after this step, what's the process if they decide on Sunday or Saturday or?
Yes, good question. Thank you. So, the first 10 people, which will probably be finishing up tonight, will get the college review. Anybody can, continue to sign up and join for this 3-week program, up until, the hour before we start on Sunday. Hopefully, maybe don't wait till the very last minute, but we'll be sending out reminders and you can sign up, up until Sunday at 8 o'clock Eastern time. And after that, though, you can't get in. Nobody, it's a short program. It's 3 weeks, and whoever signs up by Sunday at 8 o'clock, that's going to be the size of the workshop.
Makes sense. Yep.
Let's see. This is a very interesting question. Is there a maximum for early decision? Well, I'm actually, now I read it, I'm assuming you're meaning maximum number of applications. I don't know
what that means. I mean, you could apply to one school early decision, and then if that didn't go right, you could apply to another school early decision too, but just one and one.
Right.
Right. Early action, you could apply, as the question before, to 10 early schools early action, no problem.
Right.
Because again, you're committing to go if you're accepted for early decision, whereas early action, all you're doing is giving them a earlier understanding of your interest, and also they're giving you an early understanding of whether or not they want you there.
Okay, one last question. And this is, what's the difference between the essay and the personal statement?
Oh, okay. So they sometimes are one and the same, but it depends. A lot of people refer to the main Common App essay as the personal statement because it is supposed to be about the student themselves, not about a thing, a person, or an event per se, 100%. But also, as an example, Penn State, Wisconsin, Indiana, in addition to the Common App essay, they all have supplements that they call a personal statement, where they ask about what you've done and what you'll bring to be able to show that you're going to be a good match or successful at their school, or what you're thinking about majoring in and why, and that kind of stuff. So it does depend. The definition depends, and that's why they kind of get confusing sometimes. But the bottom line is, I refer to it not necessarily as a personal statement or not. It's the Common App main essay, and then the rest, in my opinion, are just supplements.
Okay, let's just clarify one thing, because Ellen is asking a question. I think maybe we didn't say it clearly, or maybe she misheard it, but she says, I was surprised you said that colleges will not give financial aid rewards for early decision until February or March. How can that be when families need the information to commit early and be able to get out of other commitments? My daughter got in early for a highly competitive school, but she got her aid with the decision in December.
Yep. Look, I didn't say every school does it that way, but my experience is kids that get in early decision don't necessarily always have the full financial aid package delivered to them in December as well. A lot of my students, now again, some of my students are or families aren't concerned about it, so maybe they're not as plugged into it. But a lot of people do not get their full financial aid award letter until January, February, or sometimes, like I said, even March. So it definitely depends on the school. I think, by the way, whatever that school that was that, along with early decision, gave that to you in December, to be honest with you, I believe that's the way everybody should be doing it.
Right.
But I have not seen that in my experience.
Okay. Well, great. Thank you, everybody. I'll read through these questions to see if there's anything else that we've missed, and we'll try and answer them afterwards. But hopefully you got a lot of information out of tonight. Anybody, these Facebook Lives are always recorded. They sit on the Road to College Facebook page. There's actually even a tab on the left-hand corner, left-hand sidebar that says live videos. So if anybody wants to ever come back, watch these over again, fast forward through some of it to find a spot that you want to listen to again, feel free. We'll repost it for anybody who wants to watch. But hopefully you got good information out of it tonight. We had a great showing, Russ, and thank you for all your good information.
My pleasure. I hope it helps some people, and I wish everybody good luck.
Okay, great. Good night, everybody.
Good night.
Bye.